Hello and welcome back to IELTS Base Camp with Lawrence. The aims of the IELTS test focus on assessing and verifying a candidate's proficiency in English for the purposes of study, of employment and of living overseas in a foreign English-speaking country. That's quite a high aim, and we need to work hard to achieve that. When we deal with our IELTS preparation, one thing that we need is knowledge, and we can learn that knowledge. But it goes further than that. We need to apply that knowledge in everyday situations. We need to develop skills. And unlike knowledge, skills are developed. They are acquired over a period of time. This involves practice, escalating practice, starting off at a basic level and increasing to more advanced heights of language acquisition. I want to tell you first a little test you can do that will give you an understanding of the level of English fluency you may have. When you're speaking either at work or at home or with friends in a social situation or a professional situation, and you start speaking in English, please try and retain some information about how often you slip into Hindi. You may use a Hindi word here and there, you may use a Hindi phrase, or you may suddenly leave the English train of communication and go directly into Hindi. It happens regularly. Please check yourself on this. See how often it happens to you. The more frequent it is, then probably the more basic your level of English as assessed by IELTS would be. And the more infrequent it is, the less it happens, the higher the grades that you'll probably score. So there's a little self-check, a self-analysis that you can do, and do it regularly, perhaps weekly. You should see an increase in the use of English and a decrease into using Hindi to supplement your speaking. Now, I want to move on to say that English communication is a two-way street. It's not all about speaking to somebody else, it's listening to them too. So, a good exercise that I recommend is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing meaning to speak or to write or to convey in your own words a message that you've received. And to do this, you need a sympathetic friend who will read to you. And we want them to read an article from a newspaper or a magazine. Let's start off with a short article, just a brief one. Get your friend to read it to you slowly. After this, you should try and paraphrase what has been said. In other words, express it in your own words. You may find this difficult at first because, as well as the problems of using English, you're trying to marshal your thoughts in your mind. That's what I'm doing when I'm speaking to you. It's a difficult process, but we hopefully will all get better at it. When you're speaking, when you're paraphrasing what you've just heard, record it. This paraphrasing is therefore a three-step process. 1. Your friend reads to you. 2. You express what's been said in your own words while recording it. And 3. You and your friend listen to that recording, analyse it, criticise it, hopefully in an encouraging way, learn from it. When you feel confident at this, because confidence is half the battle here, let the articles be longer. You can still paraphrase them paragraph by paragraph, but a longer article usually has a greater degree of complexity. It requires you to develop a deeper understanding and level of listening. You might want to help your friend by doing the same for them. That's good if you can. It helps your speaking capabilities. So paraphrasing is a good technique. Please use it. These exercises that I'm suggesting for you to do also emphasize the fact that coaching classes will offer you help. Tutors will offer you help. There are many books out there that can help you as you grow in your English fluency and in your confidence levels. But ultimately, the skills have to be acquired by you. This is why I'm suggesting exercises that you can do independently. Paraphrasing requires a friend, and it requires a tape recorder or the recording facility on your electronic gadgets. No more than that. Please understand, I'm saying nothing against coaching at all, but I am saying that you can do a lot of things on your own to increase your fluency. And if you can do that, your confidence will also grow. Now, speaking in the IELTS test has 4 areas of assessment. One of them involves grammatical usage. And I want to point out here that when we deal with grammar, a fatal flaw in India is our use of tenses. We tend to use what is called continuous tense structure. So, instead of somebody saying to you, I ate my breakfast, they will say, I have been eating my breakfast. There's nothing wrong with it. But please, that use of a verb that involves eating, that ing at the end, really implies something that was done over a period of time, rather than at one point in time. This occurs pretty often in the future tense. I would say, I will go for a walk this evening. Whereas very often people will say, I will be walking in the evening, or I will have been walking in the evening, which is very clumsy indeed. Watch your tenses. Keep them short, keep them crisp, keep them clear. I ate, I walk, I will go, rather than I was eating. Requires a little bit of thought to get used to that, but do try it. Another point of grammar is, and this is a very small one, but I should mention it. It's not 2 cupfuls of tea, it's 2 cups full of tea. And it's not 2 teaspoonfuls of sugar, it's 2 teaspoons full. Please watch for that little point. Small one, but a nice one to remember. Moving on from grammatical considerations, there is use of lexis, widening of vocabulary. We've talked a lot about how to do that. The word lexis is interesting, although we use it a lot just to mean the words that you use. Lexis actually is a specialised vocabulary. A biologist or a doctor would have a certain lexis that they would use in their professional life. So the biologist would talk perhaps about the fibula, and the tibia, and the femur, and whatever else. And different professions have their own lexis. The other thing I want to mention here is pronunciation. And since arriving in India many years ago, a lot of people have asked me, how do I improve my pronunciation? And I used to develop courses for call centres, and they used to be based a lot upon getting your vowel sounds right and getting your consonantal sounds correct and your diphthongs. And about repeating the same tongue twisters 20 times every day, every training session, in the hope that this barrage of learning would affect your pronunciation. I think now, looking back, it can all be made a little bit easier, and they have to do with 2 points. One is inflection and the other is speed. I very often get phone calls from people who are trying to sell me insurance or a new credit card or want me to open a new bank account and so on, and I guess you do too. If you've listened to those sales representatives, you'll find, firstly, that they have very little inflection in their voices. Who can blame them? They're doing the same job day in, day out. But they're either reading from a script or they're speaking from memory. It's obvious. It's a flat level of delivery. There's no variation. It's boring, it's frustrating, and ultimately it's irritating. And then I put the phone down, as you probably do. Try and use your voice. Vary your pitch. Get inflection and modulation into your voice. It makes it much more interesting. And the second thing is your speed of speaking. I don't know how many words a minute the average Hindi speaker will use. They probably speak quite a lot, and I think it's a lot more than the average English speaker will use. So people who say to me, "Oh, I don't know any English," well, I find that quite strange, because whatever English they do know, they speak it in such rapid fire that it's very difficult to actually work out what the individual words are. And I'm very often saying, "Could you please repeat that?" I think if you adjust your speed of delivery to speak slowly, your words will become clearer, crisper. You will convey meaning much better. It's nice to have a polished English accent, I guess, but ultimately, English is a language, and it's there for communication. Rather than emphasize pronunciation, remember that what you must do is communicate with the people you are speaking to. Speak with voice modulation and speak slowly. I'm speaking quite slowly on this video. I hope it's interesting enough that you haven't switched off, and if you're still with us, then perhaps you can learn from that. Pronunciation is fine, but you're not going to pronounce well if you're speaking so quickly that the words come out garbled and rushed. And neither will you speak in an interesting way if your voice is forever at the same level, at the same pitch. There we are. For today, this is Lawrence signing off at IELTS Base Camp. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.